Thank you, Rose. That was great. Thank you, CJ and Janie, for inviting me here today. And hi, everyone. This is so awesome. I'm Hilary. I've been into UX since about 2004, before it was really even called, UX. So today I've been asked to talk to you about user research and empathizing with users, and more importantly, empathizing with users from the human-centered design framework. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. And actually, before I begin, if everyone has a piece of paper and a pen, you will need that in a few minutes. We're going to do a really great exercise. It's something I live by. So yeah, grab your piece of paper and pen while I get going here. Okay. That's the audience window. Yes. Perfect. You can see my screen. So empathizing with users. So last time you came to one of these talks, right, you were entering the mindset of UX, right, which is like promoting user needs and discovering how to think about creating meaningful solutions. And now we'll dive into a comprehensive guide to user research techniques in human-centered design. And really, it's all about empathizing with users and working on actively listening, which Jade AI would be great for, right? I have a bot on here also, like you can get your bots going. So that helps you with the active listening and keeping great records. Those are kind of like the two aspects of it. You need to actively listen and care, and then keep notes. Karen, you're using Otter too. That's cool. Okay, sorry, I just saw that your autopilot joined. It's like, yes. Ooh, the robots are here.
Otter friends are here.
Okay, so welcome. User research isn't just a step in the design process. It is fundamental, right? UXR, user research, user experience research, guides every decision, ensuring users are the core of any product or service design, really anything. And it's more than just apps, even though we're probably just focused on the tech aspect of it now. It's more than that, so just keep that in mind. It starts by putting humans at the center of the design process. So you're going to hear that term a lot, human-centered design. And I would like for all of us to kind of get on the same page about what that means. So now is the time. I'm going to grab that piece of paper and your pen, okay? And in the center of your page, however big your page is, it doesn't really matter, just draw a circle in the center of your page. And then from that circle, you're going to draw 10 lines radiating out of that circle like a sun shining, okay? So, but 10 is key, so make sure you count out your 10 lines now. That's literally the only thing that matters. 10 lines. So once you have your 10 lines, in the center of that circle, in the center of that bubble, you want to write human-centered design. So for anyone who's joining us right now, you just need a piece of paper. You're going to draw a circle in the middle of that paper with 10 lines radiating out from it. So it looks like a sunshine. 10 is key. In the center of that circle, you're going to write human-centered design. So I have a little egg timer. It's like one of those children's egg timers for brushing your teeth. It's 2 minutes. So we're going to take 2 minutes. And at the tip end of each of those lines, you're going to sit and write the first thing that comes to mind about human-centered design. It can be anything, and maybe you won't get all 10 filled out. It's actually quite difficult to get 10 filled out, but you're going to try and continue until you filled out all 10 spots. So it's the first thing that comes to your mind, and everything's just relating to human-centered design. It can be a little drawing, it can be a squiggle, it can be whatever comes to your head first. Nothing's wrong. Spelling doesn't count. This is your personal note to get us all on the same page about what it means. So I'm going to flip the timer right now. Feel free if you're really fast. Oh, and my timer just broke. No, I got it. We're good. So feel free if you're fast, you can write your some of what you're thinking in the chat. Feel free to speak up. You can unmute yourself and speak up if you have questions. So I'm going to flip it. So 2 minutes starts now. So at the tip end of each line, write the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about human-centered design on your page.
Oh.
Yeah, this is my favorite exercise. I call it the bubble method.
Yes.
Some people have seen it as a mind map. You'll generally see these, but typically they don't have the 10 lines. And it's actually, that's what's key. So.
Okay.
If you have any questions or you're someone who needs to speak out loud, feel free. It's totally fine. About halfway. So human-centered design. Okay, last like 30 seconds or so.
I'm done.
You're done? Wow. Yeah. Speedy.
Cool.
Okay, so we're gonna call that about 2 minutes. So what did you write for whoever's done? Like, does anyone want to share?
I wrote few words that came to my mind, like empathize, resonate, needs, process, solve, understand, development, problem solving, technique, create. That's all I wrote.
That's awesome. Does anyone have one that they just heard that's also on their page?
I do have the empathize one. I think I also get that one. I have something about easy to use. Yeah, and what else? What do others have it there?
I think I have emotional design, and then iteration, and yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, that's similar. Yeah, and similar. Yeah.
I think I have emotions, needs, what else? Problem. And that's similar, but I have more.
You have more? Okay, what else? What else do you have? Oh, we've got Elizabeth saying user advocacy and Stephanie saying pain points.
Yes.
Awesome. I have convenience, language, motivation, opportunities, inclusivity, and wants. And that's it.
Love
I
it.
have easy to navigate, less cognitive overload. Goals are met, and again, pain points, addressing pain points and needs.
Nice. We have lots of message popping in.
Yeah, we got accessibility, pain, frustration, support, communicate, creative. Nihal, what was the last word that you said?
I think goals are met.
Goals. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. Creative, Vivian. Yes. See, this is awesome. This is so cool. What else do we have? Problem solving. So this is coming up a lot. So we've got problem solving, usability, empathy. These are some key things that are like being clear, accessible, inclusive, innovation. Vivian, I like how you think. Qualitative and quantitative research. Yes, Stephanie, like the only two types of research, right? Flexible, Mark, cool. That's interesting. Flexible. I like that. simple solutions, solving real problems. This is great. So I love this activity. If you're ever running a workshop, and especially if you have multiple teams, like as a researcher, you're going to end up talking to like everybody at the company, hopefully everybody and their moms, everybody. And when you get a lot of teams together, or people, you know, from different cultures or different places on the planet, everyone's going to have different words for something that you think everyone has the exact same definition, and they do not. So this is a really great exercise to do. Like you just saw, it took 2 minutes for you all to like write this down, but it enables everybody to get on the same page with at least some of the same vocabulary to start using, so that maybe what I have in my head isn't exactly the same thing as what CJ has, right? And it's a way for us to talk about it and be like, oh, when you're saying daily use, Angela, like, what do you mean by that? You know, and you can really get into conversations about very, very specific points just to make sure you're all on the same page. So I think, yeah, solving real problems, easy to use, evolving, validation. One thing I didn't see that came up actually that I kind of included in mine that I did before, because I can't present and do a bubble, which that's like a skill I haven't mastered, is ethics. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but like making sure it's safe and secure and like looking at people's privacy and stuff. So that's also part of it too, especially during the research process, like making sure everyone's good with the recording, or like their name isn't just like plastered all over, you know, something for whatever reason. So, oh, you mentioned it.
Yes,
Nami mentioned it.
Nami actually mentioned it. Good
Nice.
one. Good call.
Yes, good. Very good call. Excellent. So that's a great exercise. It's literally my favorite go-to. I use the bubble method for basically every aspect of my life. But it's a really great tool to just get everybody on the same page, so that I really didn't have to put together a slide all about human-centered design. We all now know where everyone's coming from and how people feel about that, right? So thank you so much. That was awesome. That was a great participation. Let's keep going. So let's talk about the importance of user research. So why are we engaging in user research in the first place? I mean, the question before was, if you won $1 million, would you still do UX? My answer, yeah, I probably would, because I'm choosing to do this for myself right now anyways. Like, I'm not really sure what else I would do with myself other than mini ponies. UX is so important, and it touches so many different industries. It's fascinating. So if you have something that you really love, like say you're passionate about healthcare, or you love the financial industry, or you really like making, you know, physical products, UX actually is part of every single one of those industries. So eventually, as you move from being more junior into leadership roles, you know, you're going to be able to advance your career and niche, right? So that's pretty exciting, because it's essential for solving problems and creating designs and products, services, solutions that a person will want to use. First and foremost, they'll want to use it. They don't just need to use it, and they're not just like getting by with some crappy thing because they have to. So they'll want to use it, and they will know how to use it without struggling. So that came up a lot in the human-centered design bubble that we just did, right? Making it easy to use, making it comfortable, easily navigable. You can navigate it easily, you know, so that's the importance of user research. And so getting it right from the beginning is key. And so that's what really we're going to start with today. Because as I was like going through my notes, CJ and I were talking about this yesterday. They're like, do whatever. I was like, oh my God, there's so much. So I kept it really basic today, just so that you know where to start, because if this is your design challenge, you know, this is the kind of the beginning of it, right? So we're starting with the basics. If you have more questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I just joined your Discord server also. So I'm at Hilary Cluett. Like, you can DM me, message me on any of those channels or whatever. I do the Discord. So let's keep going here. What's next? So basically, to start, I mean, because like I said, it touches every industry. There's an infinite number of questions. There's an infinite number of things that you could improve. But typically, you're going to be aligning your testing goals with business goals. If you're not doing that, then maybe it's just like a research project that you've come up with by yourself, which is totally fine. But in the real world, that's not necessarily academia, you're going to have to align your testing goals with business goals. So for example, if my business goal is to become the market leader in my product space, you're going to start to think about what research target goals would help that, or what you would actually be able to test to support that business goal, right? Because if you're having conversations with executives and you're talking about some color of a button or some random aspect that has nothing to do with their business goals, you will never be invited for that meeting again. There's not a chance. So if you're aligning everything you do from the very beginning with business goals, you'll always be invited to the table. You're going to be an asset to that team. They're going to ask you to come back. You're going to be, giving the keynotes on whatever the subject is, because you've put these two things together and they're inseparable in your mind. When I find some of my clients, they lose their positions, and I ask them, okay, well, like, what business goals did you achieve? And they're like, well, that's the problem. So unfortunately, it all comes down to that at the end of the day. So if my goal was to become the market leader in my product space, some of the research target goals, right, that I've listed here could be to increase the total number of signups, which in business terms is increasing the total number of users in your funnel, right? Like executives all think in funnels, where people enter, how they get through to the money at the end, right? So increasing the total number of signups. You could increase active users per day, which is a measurement of maintained engagement, right? That's key. That's great. Maybe it's increasing the duration of the first visit. So that's an excellent measure of early engagement, right? Or maybe it's decreasing drop-off rate at a certain point. Like they've identified, oh my God, people, when they go to use our payment gateway, they all just leave. Like, what's happening here? So you're going to say, okay, well, I want to conduct research that keeps users moving forward and helps them see value here. So how do I, choose some appropriate methods? And at boot camps, online, there's a resource channel on Discord here for IterateUX, right? You're going to find so many different testing methods. I literally tried to list some and I was like, you know what? That's a Google thing. Like, I'm not even going to get into that, because you'll want to choose an appropriate testing method depending on what you want to achieve. So anytime you ask, if you go to like a coffee meet and greet with another UX, and you'll be like, oh, what are some of the methods that you really like to use? They will always say, it depends. It depends. It depends on this. It depends on that. Depends on the goal. Depends on the stage. So, for example, this is an interactive portion. For these research target goals that are listed in front of us, right? What might be an appropriate research method? Just pick one of them and then think of a method. You can write it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. Putting you all on the spot. It's okay. Nothing's wrong. It's research. Do you think a survey might be appropriate for any one of them? User interviews, Elizabeth? Yeah.
User interviews, I guess, for one of those.
For the drop-offs on the end, it would be interesting to do the usability testing to actually interview the process of where they're having the pain points.
Yeah, see it happening, right? Like watch their frustration as they're like, I can't find the payment button. And you're like, it's okay.
I think competitive analysis also.
Right.
On which one? For which one?
I'm sorry?
For which one? Competitive analysis for which one of those target goals?
It depends.
It depends. There you go. There's a UX researcher right there.
To understand pain points and to understand opportunity areas. It could be for anything, to increase total number of signups, to increase active users per day, to increase duration of the first visit, to decrease drop-off rate. It could be for any one of them, depending on how your user research goes and how you take it after that.
Your budget too, right? Like maybe you don't have enough money to do a bunch of user tests, right? And you have to just look at what other people are doing, right? That's, maybe you just have to read some papers, which is what we call secondary research, where you're just sitting there reading about it, right? So yeah, exactly. So those are tons. Those are tons of examples. Usability testing to understand the pain points for signing up. Yep, exactly. So we've got that. So when you're starting though, and you're assessing what these goals are, and you're trying to figure out, okay, like what testing goals line up with these business goals, you're actually going to want to speak to a lot of people in the beginning. You're not just going to want to jump in and just go for it. You're going to talk to people. So you can understand which customer issues by interviewing stakeholders. That could be your team members, subject matter experts. They're called SMEs. If you ever hear like SME, it's subject matter experts, product leaders, executives. But you're going to ask them. You're not there to tell them like, this is what I'm doing, here are my goals, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, you actually want to ask them questions, right? Because then you're going to get feedback from them that maybe isn't part of your original understanding, right? Because they're the people who, like, customer service reps, sales associates, they're talking to customers all the time. So if you're going into like an existing product, they're going to be some of your best people, because the sales associates will be able to tell you why people aren't purchasing something and what your competitors are doing. And the customer service reps are going to be able to tell you why people are calling in with complaints all the time, right? And how they're having to mediate that. So those are great people to start with, so that you can start to understand some of these things on the side, right? So what is the mental model that the users already have in mind here? Like if you're designing something like Zoom, for example, okay, like what else like are people using? Like, do they use whatever? We're not even going to go into it. I'm not going to go into details, but what mental models already exist that maybe you're not thinking of, maybe you don't have, but you can discover, right? That links very closely with familiarity. Are there some features that customers are familiar with? Like, is there a chat feature? We've all been able to use this chat feature, right? On Zoom, we're pretty used to this instant messaging type thing. So is there something that already exists that people already know how to use, so you don't actually have to teach them anything? And then I throw in accessibility. It got said multiple times during our bubble exercise, accessibility and ethics. So how can you prioritize overall usability, inclusivity, and safety, right? So even when you're doing these, like having these conversations, asking like, oh, or trying your product with like a screen reader, or trying it using the tab key, or whatever that is, just making sure that that's like part of your research from the beginning and not like an afterthought at the very end. And then, is this something completely new? Because if you're introducing something new, how will people understand it? Right? So that's going to be part of your job, is as a researcher, to figure out, how are people thinking about this? What are they feeling about that? How are they using it? And what do they do while they're using it? Right? So all of these things come together to the point where you're going to be so overwhelmed with information that if you're not using something like Jade AI or Jada or what, like something to keep track of all of this, like Otter, whatever it is, it's all going to be for nothing. Like, you need to be an excellent record keeper, because full quotes, whenever possible, is much better to back up your ideas or your conclusions. It's much better evidence as opposed to just your own interpretation of something. Because I can say, for example, this is a funny example, actually. In 13, I was running for the like executive director of my student union at the university. And I asked everybody to write down notes. Like before I got the position, I asked everybody to write down like a note of something that they were upset with at the school. It was a bubble, but it was like a massive bubble, what they're upset with at the school. And then I gave them a taco. So I obviously got in because you give people food and they're like, oh yeah, Hilary. So first meeting, I'm at the like massive boardroom table. It's all the execs of the school. It's like the president, the vice president, all the like everybody's there. I'm there. It's my first meeting. And I have my bubble board with all the complaints. And so at the end, I didn't really get a chance to speak. It was more of like me trying to figure out what's going on here. At the end, I went to the vice president of students because it was her job to really interact with me all the time. And I put down my board and I said, look, this is what students are saying about what's going on at the school. And she like looks at it. It's covered. It's just covered. I have all different markets. It's an art school too. So like there's lots of stuff on it. She's looking at it. She goes, canvas is balls. And I was like, yes. She goes, is balls good? It's like, balls is bad. Very bad. She was just like, oh, can I take this? And I said, yes, that's what we're going to prioritize here is like everything on this board. So I didn't have to tell them, listen, your learning management system is driving people crazy. She read it right there, big, bold letters, and didn't understand it. And then it was my job just to say, no, that's a negative comment. Like, this is something you should address immediately. And they ended up changing their learning management system. So it's interesting to use quotes. It sometimes feels awkward because like maybe the quotes are a little bit intense, but those are actually really impactful. So the better your notes are, the better that you can show things. It makes your job a lot easier at the end when someone's questioning you. The more searchable things are. I used to take notes all by hand. Now I have an iPad and all my notes I write on GoodNotes. And then even my handwriting is searchable. So, I have like 800 sheets and I can search through them. So making sure that you are creating notes that are searchable is really important. Keeping good records of every interview. How I do this, even right now, I have Otter on the call. Otter always transcribes the text and always has an audio recording. This is also being video recorded. So when you have the option, video record, right? And then when you compile it all, like Jade, that was cool that you can kind of do all that stuff in the system. But I personally love spreadsheets, right? So I use Airtable. I love Airtable. People use Excel, Sheets, Confluence, Dovetail, literally the list goes on and on. Pick one that you like and that you can create kind of a template on that you can go back to and modify, because you'll think, okay, I have my perfect template. And then no, you always have to modify these things and it's always going to depend. So the other thing just to keep in mind is when you're asking people these questions, you're not necessarily going up to the customer service rep and asking them a closed question. So, do you get calls of people complaining? They're going to say yes, right? That's a very closed question, right? So instead, you want to ask more of an open question so they can really elaborate. You may even want to do a bubble with them and be like, okay, we're going to talk about customer complaints. What are your top 10 things that you want to tell me about customer complaints, right? But you can ask them an open question. So does anyone have an example of what an open question might be for like a sales associate or customer service rep when you're kind of starting initially with your research? His balls good. So just like
Yeah, that was funny.
It's very, very bad. Yeah. So what would be an open question that you could ask, one of your teammates or an engineer or somebody when you're just starting out? What are common frustrations customers call in about? Yeah, beautiful. History-based questions. So is that kind of what Angela is saying there too? Like, what are common frustrations? How is the response for the XYZ new feature? Yes, exactly. So it's what and how questions, right? Why is this happening? How might we, right? So it's not a question they can just answer with a yes, no, or like a tick or something. Like they actually have to explain themselves. Perfect. Okay, everyone got that correct. Excellent. So when you're asking these questions, and we all have our own mental models that we come in with, those are often called biases. So we can have personal biases. And it can happen for so many different reasons, and everyone has them. So like, don't be like, oh no, like it's okay. It's okay to have a bias. It's just when you're doing user research, you want to put aside your personal biases and assumptions, okay? You do not want to cherry pick through your data to support your preconceived ideas or conclusions. So this can also be kind of a battle with, like say, for example, the VP of students was like, no, we have to use Canva. Like we only have to use Canva. And then I'm coming at her saying, okay, well, look, this is what the students are saying. But if I hadn't have shown that, if I had felt uncomfortable showing that, if I had felt, uncomfortable having that little brief 20-second conversation with her, that would be me cherry picking the data to support the notion that we're just going to be stuck with Canva. This is the rest of our lives, right? And so you can't cherry pick it. You just have to stick with what you get and learn from the evidence to draw new conclusions. So here are 4 really great questions that you can ask, and they come up during different times of the research method, right? It's like discover, explore, I have other notes here, validate, and iterate. So depending on whatever phase that you're in, there's going to be, different questions that you ask. So you can always ask, like in discover, what are these options? Like, what are the options? What works best? How well is this working? And how can we optimize? So those are always things that you can come back to and make sure that whatever testing methods that you're using are aligning with those 4 questions. So what are the options? What works best? How well is it working? How can we optimize? And then, like I said, you're going to have different testing methods. I love guerrilla testing. Like I love going in and, running into a coffee shop and asking, the first 5 people that I see, hey, does this make sense to you? Hey, does this work? Like, what do you think about this thing? Just seeing what their initial response is, just to get like a quick understanding of what some of these options are. You have your user testing. There's literally infinite amount of different styles of testing. So, but the goal is to not let your own bias cloud the overall thing. And it can be uncomfortable. And you know what? That's okay. It's fine. You could have butterflies in your stomach. Maybe you get a little sweaty and like vomit before the meeting. Fine, whatever. Do your thing. Brush your teeth. Get on with it. You're fine. It's okay. And if you ever need like help to do that and to like overcome that, that's a confidence thing. Call me. Holler at me. I'm here. I can help you. It's okay. You can do it. So, an example of like a real world application where I've used some of these methods that I'm talking about, right? And it's because this is design. It's quick. We're iterating. We're going on sprints. We're whatever, agile. It's all these different methods for basically just being fast and experimenting. It's like now we have books all about it. But the idea is that you don't want to be stuck in anything. You want to make sure that you're answering questions that are relevant at that time, and you're answering them quickly so that people can make changes and test them, right? So real world application is my own UX vocab club. So I was trying to figure out kind of what the next step is. And I put out a poll on LinkedIn. LinkedIn polls are amazing. I put out a poll on LinkedIn asking whether communication skills or design skills were more important. Now, the great thing about LinkedIn polls is that you get lists of everyone who answered both ways. So you can individually message them. So I had 100 participants, and then I messaged each one of them. Of that 100, 15 of them booked discovery calls with me, which is just a 15-minute meeting to discuss their reasoning. So what I did was I used the bubble method. Like I said, it's literally my favorite go-to. Now you all know how to use it. You're going to be experts. I used the bubble method on a Google Jamboard. I don't know if everyone's used that. It's basically like Fig Jam, but it's like way less detailed. It's like you only get one little screen. It's not like an infinite canvas. So I just set up a bubble, and that's where I took notes. So they were talking and they could see this bubble being made as they were talking. And I video recorded the calls, right? And I also had Otter there. So I got my audio and my text lined up. Great. So what the bubble method did was it provided an open conversation about the top 10 things that came to their minds about communication or design skills. So whatever it was that they chose in the poll, that's what I put in the middle of the bubble, okay? And I was like, okay, talk to me about this. Why do you think this is the most important thing? And from this, I uncovered that even though, some of those people said that design skills were more important than communication skills, as they started talking and as my notes started coming through, it was actually excellent communication skills that they were talking about. So we had different ideas about what design skills are, and that communication skills were a really big part of that. So even though they told me, and in a survey, they said to me, this is more important than this, when you actually went into it and dove into the research, that wasn't more important. It was communication skills that was way more important, and that just totally came through, right? So that's, it helped me align my services with what people want. And it actually birthed a new product very quickly for me called the assessment call, which there's a link. You can all jump on an assessment call with me. It's great. And just because of that quick turnaround, so from the time I asked the poll to researching, to taking my notes, to understanding, okay, this is actually a really big deal. I've got like 54 new candidates, over the past 2.5 months. So that's a substantial increase in the total amount of my signups, right? Which is one of my original business goals. So I'm tying it back to an original business goal. And it's this quick iteration of, okay, here's an idea. I want to make sure I'm making this relevant to people. What are they saying versus what does that actually mean? Now I'm taking my insights and I'm acting on that already. And it's already proving to be lucrative, right? So that's the kind of fast pace that you actually want to like work in. You don't want to be like, oh, I have 3 months. Yeah, you might have 3 months, but are you going to take all 3 months? Because in business terms, that's a really long time to wait for something to come through, right? So yeah, Jamboard, Google Jamboard. If you're on Google Meet, you can, I'm not sure if it's available for all. I pay for my Google account, but like it's called a Google Jamboard. If you Google it, it'll probably come up. It's an easy way to like go from a Google Meet to a board that you can both share. So, I'm just looking at the chat, especially with agile startup environments where management has no design background. How do you practice justifying design decisions and advocating for time to conduct user research? That is an amazing question. You do that by directly aligning with business goals so that you're speaking their same language, because you're not actually trying to educate anybody else on the team about user research, because one, you want to keep your job. 2, you want to be an asset that's always invited to the table. And if someone else can speak that language, they don't need you. So you're not trying to educate them on what user research is. You're speaking their language of, hey, in this, I talked to 15 people, and it turns out that we're focusing on design skills, but actually what people need is communication skills. So instead of developing this new product all about design skills, we're going to focus on communication and how people actually communicate their designs and their solutions and their experiences. And that's going to drive us business. And you keep it short, you keep it succinct, you keep it all about their goals. And then don't give them all your Figma files or all of your annotations or everything, because then they don't need you. You want to be engaged in ongoing conversations. You do not want to hide behind your computer. You always want to be messaging them saying like, hey, I just had this really cool quote from this user. Like, oh, someone's actually pretty upset about this. Like, do you have 5 minutes for us to chat? Keep yourself relevant in a way that you don't need to present a 50 slide deck every time you go to talk to someone. You can say what you need to say in less than a minute. People will love that. They'll be like, oh my God, you know, at the student union, I was invited to everything. By the end, I would just show up. Actually, a lot of the time I just show up, and then they just started inviting me because they realized, okay, Hilary isn't going on and on and on about stuff. She's presenting us like a sheet. I called them one pagers that had like my top few things on them with some action items and a space for them to take notes. Like everyone always thought that I was running the meetings, but I was just showing up with paper and handing out my own agenda. I didn't care what was going on. I was like, this is what's up. So, you know, having that confidence to just be succinct, be short, be confident in your work because you've taken really good notes. That's key. That's key. Yeah, what was the jam file? Okay, and that's just my link. Okay. So I get really passionate. I'm like hot and passionate now about this. Like, so future trends, what's going on? I mean, AI, like artificial intelligence and machine learning, that's what's going on. That's actually what kind of drew me back into user research a few years ago. I was playing around online doing some like data analysis, and I was like, oh, I want my own data. Like I want to like go through my own data. I want my own little robot. And so then in 2021, I basically filmed one video every single day. It was a leap year, so I got 366 videos of me just like ranting about UX because I had Otter there transcribing. And so now I have all these like text transcripts of me talking about UX and discussing things, you know, like the laws and like all my questions, everything, lots of ranting. And, you know, eventually I'm going to be able to get some machine learning involved in there and, you know, start teasing things out, make a chat bot, maybe, who knows, but it's really like not being afraid of these new technologies and incorporating them into your process, because that's where it's going. That is the future. And if you're kind of blocking that, then you're going to probably have a short career. So, you know, by embracing these things and, you know, like it's meant to help you sift through all of the data. So I don't have to go back and read 366 videos worth of transcripts. You know, a bot can do that for me and start teasing out some of these keywords. So the whole point of user research, and this I just saw like in your upcoming talks, it's going to be part of it, is to tell a story, right? So you're aiming to present a well-supported narrative, which is a story that people can talk about and regurgitate, right? Like it's not just a 50 deck. Oh, please never have 50 slides in a deck. Like if you have more than 10, just stop yourself, just stop. Because no one has time for that and no one will remember that. Whereas if you can tell a story with like a really great visual or really great quote, that's all they're going to be talking about. Like that's all people were talking about with the Canva thing. Canva's balls, like, oh my God, what's this? We have to fix this. It was like the talk for like 2 weeks and then it started to get fixed, right? Like I got to meet with IT people, like it was insane. So if you can make something very memorable and in a story format, with that impact, people will talk about it and they'll want you to come back and present something else the next time. So keep your 50 slides, but only present a few of them at a time. So you're not overwhelming anyone and people aren't just starting to check their emails, right? So, I mean, just before I go on to the very last slide, which is literally a thank you slide with a cute cat. Does anyone here use AI or machine learning or dabble in any of that? Have you guys tried any of that yet? Yes, Jacqueline. Yes. What do you use? ChatGPT. Yes. Yes. ChatGPT is great, especially when you're just trying to like come up with a framework of something and then you can edit it. I always do ChatGPT and then I put it into Grammarly. And then from Grammarly, I stick it into something else. Adobe Firefly. Ooh, I'm going to have to check that one out. Midjourney. Yeah. Okay. ChatGPT. I love it. I love it. The one thing about ChatGPT is if you are working for a company who has proprietary information, you're not going to want to stick that on ChatGPT because now that information is part of the brain. DALL-E, Cohesive, Night Cafe. Oh my God. These are great. Yeah. So, and then a lot of companies are starting to make their own too, right? So that's really interesting. It's like a cool topic you can raise in interviews. You know, when you're having an interview with someone, you can be like, oh, hey, like, what's going on? Like, do you guys do any machine learning here? And, you know, to say like, you're not afraid of it, basically. So that's great. I'm glad everyone, there's some new ones here that I have to check out now. So that's basically it. Thank you so much. I'm Hilary, and please connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my name, at Hilary Cluett. And then if you want to have an assessment call, it's a really great way. Basically, people come from all levels. So, you know, there's executives and also people fresh out of school or just transitioning into UX. And it's a really great assessment call where you talk about yourself, you present a case study, you present your portfolio, whatever you have. It's fine if it's nothing, it's okay. Whatever you have, you present. I ask you 5 typical interview questions, and then we do a quick whiteboard challenge. So it's basically like a jam-packed 45 minutes where you do everything, but it gives us a baseline of where you're at. And so we video record it because I like to train like an elite athlete, you know, online. And we watch our tapes. So you basically get to see yourself through the eyes of a recruiter. And as soon as you see yourself do an interview, you automatically improve because you're like, oh, I didn't realize that I'm sitting there touching my neck the whole time. Or, oh, I didn't realize how boring that portfolio presentation was. So you get to see it, you never repeat it. And then basically from there, we have a few other conversations. You know, you get an assessment. It's like out of 25 points. It's all objective. It's all objective. I have a really great documentation process on my Airtable. It's beautiful, very automated, very proud of it. And so those are really fun calls. So if you want to book one, I do them on Mondays now. Monday is assessment day. And oh, Elizabeth, yes, I will see you there. I just got my notification. So that's it's really fun. I really love doing them, and I'd love to meet with every single one of you. I have time. I'm here. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active, actually, and I respond to all my DMs. You can email me, but right now I have like 1,000 emails waiting for me to see. So I would go for the DMs on LinkedIn. And that's basically it. So if anyone has more, sorry, Elizabeth, I didn't mean to call you out. I just saw it, it popped up. I was like, oh. Yeah, basically any other questions? I'm here. Sorry if I went over time, CJ. I tried.
Not at all. I actually like that idea. Like a couple months ago, I was doing a lot of interviews, and it's true. Like you don't know what you look like during the interview. Why are you now passing to the next or something?
Exactly.
It really needs some help there. And
yeah.
I didn't know, Hilary, your amazing tool back then. So it took me a longer time to get to, you know, scheduling with my friends, doing some kind of a, you know, mock-up sessions. But
yeah.
I would say go to the professionals. They know the secret sauce.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and your friends, like that's great, you know, like it's great if you can, you know, rope someone into that. That's awesome. But like I actually I care. Like I want you to succeed. Your friends, they want to go out for drinks, they want to chill, they want to do anything else but like listen to your portfolio 5 times. I want you to be the best you can be and like have an awesome career. That's why I said even if I won $1 million, I'd still probably be doing this because I actually like I chose this. Like I chose to work with people. I decided, you know what, actually my skill is communication and helping people talk about their experiences, translate their previous work experience. Maybe you've had this awesome career in some other field and now you're just coming into UX and you don't think any of that's relevant. I'm here to tell you it is relevant. And you know, there's ways that you can talk about it that actually makes sense, right? So that's yeah, it's like my passion. I love being around people and talking. So just anytime.
Yay. So we left some message and links down below so you can find Hilary and also connect with Hilary on LinkedIn. And I guess this is it. Do we have more questions for people to pop in, or if not, stay if you are shy to talk to us, but I will cut it off today. Thank you so much, Hilary, for coming to this session. I hope you enjoyed this time with us as well, and we would like to see you in the future. And
yes, I loved it. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. It's so nice to see so many people here and some people I know. I'm like, it's very cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the night, everyone. I will say we'll cut it off today, and then feel free if you wanted to stay and to chat. Otherwise, have a very good evening out there and enjoy the night then. Thank you for coming, everyone. Take care.
Yay!
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hilary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aw, everyone's so nice.
Yeah, that was a great session. I love it. And it's so precise. Right at
It
the
was
time.
an amazing session. I loved it. 10 out of
Hey everyone, on behalf of IterateUX, we'd like to thank you so much for watching this week's session. If you like the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have events every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Time. Join our Discord in the description to find out more.